Hello everyone, the December review here, and I'm back again with a movie review today. We have the recently released sci-fi horror film The Substance, starring Demi Moore, Margaret Qualley, and Dennis Quaid. And it's quite the movie-going experience. Spoilers are ahead, so make sure to check out the film, which is currently in theaters, streaming on Mubi, and can be purchased online on all the usual services. So where to begin with a film like The Substance? There's multiple levels here to work with, so let's just start with the plot. Moore stars as Elizabeth Sparkle, a top Hollywood star with a long-running aerobics mega-hit TV show. She's got a Walk of Fame star and decades of accolades and fans. She's informed by Harvey, played by Quaid, who is the showrunner, that she is let go from the production. On her 50th birthday, no less. On her way home, she's involved in a car accident where, at the hospital, she's introduced to this strange underground program called The Substance, which promises to roll back time and change her life. Well, after a moment of reflection, Elizabeth decides to give The Substance a chance. And to say that all heck breaks loose would be a major understatement. Don't let the cast and trailers make you forget, if you're thinking of checking this movie out, that this is a horror film. Above anything else, it's an effects-driven and extremely vivid gore fest. Within the horror genre, there are different subcategories. You have your fun slasher films or scary supernatural haunts. There's found footage, monster, or possession films. There's also body horror, of which The Substance falls directly into. A term coined in the 80s, body horror reflects the inner struggles of oneself on screen, usually depicted through metaphors that showcase a physical reaction to internal or world events. Think zombie films, for instance. Frankenstein is one of the earliest examples of this subgenre. Director David Cronenberg is considered the modern-day creator of the field, with films such as Scanners and the 1986 remake of The Fly. Now, if you've seen that film starring Jeff Goldblum and Geena Davis, you're starting to scratch the surface a bit of The Substance. It's very much The Fly, along with a host of other Jekyll and Hyde mythos absorbed within. So just what is this substance that we speak of? Well, it's a serum that once taken will create another, more perfect version of yourself. Facing down the uncertainty of her life, Elizabeth is essentially split into two people, creating Sue, played by Qualley. Now, there's a whole host of rules once the transformation is complete, but the biggest plot point is that the two versions need to alternate each week as to who is awake. And what you do to one version, you essentially do to the other. So balance is the biggest factor for its success. This is a crazy horror film, so no balance here. Sue goes on to be hired as Elizabeth's replacement on the TV show and immediately becomes a ratings smash. She quickly becomes intolerant of that whole balance concept, and an all-out war between the two commences. Taking aside the film's clear over-the-top effects and spiciness, the movie starts off very seriously in terms of its story. It's very much a thriller with a science fiction aspect. There is a constant movement throughout the film which helps create some serious building tension. When you start to add in the special effects, that tension gets taken up a few extra steps. There is this ticking time clock between Elizabeth and Sue as they both take turns living in the awake world. It doesn't take long for the two to become hostile towards each other, for essentially wanting more time than the allowed week. For Sue, this just means bending the substance rules, but for Elizabeth, each infraction speeds up her aging, which results in one thing that she was trying to avoid in the first place. But there is a very specific tonal shift here for the last act of the movie. This thing is already way out there, but I thought it works best when it tries to tie it all down in the film's reality. The last 30 minutes or so go into an almost comedic and cartoonish direction that will either keep the train rolling along for some of the audience, or will start to get a few eye rolls from others. As an example, there's a big build-up to a New Year's Eve concert that Sue is going to be performing at. By this time in the movie, she is starting to literally fall apart, and in desperation, she takes more of the substance, which creates this monster version. She ends up performing the show, sort of, and the concert goers seem rather indifferent to the situation until they don't. But this indifference shifts the film from serious to campy. It's a noticeable change. Directed by Coralie Fargate, the movie shines with vivid colors and extremely well-placed camera placement. Visually, the film is alive, and its widescreen direction is top shelf. Same goes for the score here. The sound effects are done as well as you will see for film, and it's a very well put together one. This is high quality filmmaking with an excellent cast. Many are calling this Demi's best work of her career. She's great here, and this is a very unique role. Qualley doesn't waste much time taking an almost android or alien approach to her alter ego role. Much like these types of scenarios, her version of Elizabeth is menacing and selfish. Dennis Quaid also does some great work here as the jerk showrunner. It's not a likable role, and much like every other aspect of the film, the performance is way over the top. You might not be able to see someone eating shrimp again without thinking of him. There's a host of influences to be found here, from The Shining to The Thing, Frankenstein, and even Basket Case. I was also reminded a bit of the recent Infinity Pool film in terms of theme and cinematography. The movies bookend quite well with Elizabeth's star being front and center. It's a symbol for all that she can accomplish, and in the beginning we see it being constructed and admired before it eventually falls into the background. The passerby is oblivious to its existence. In the end, it becomes the final resting spot for its lead character, but not without one final smirk thrown in. The star concept was very well done. Overall, The Substance is something else. As a horror film, it's a gross and carnage-filled tale. As a sci-fi movie, it works within the confines of its substance rules and reanimator vibes. It's also a story on aging and its effects on someone's mind, told within the special effects backdrop. It's not a subtle film, but there's a lot of interesting metaphors and quirks throughout its runtime. The last act is so over the top it will either be no big deal and seem like a logical conclusion, or the change in tone from serious to all-out Dead Alive levels of cartoon craziness will check you out of the story. For me, I enjoyed the film more when it played things seriously, but the actual final end moment is a standout in its story. If these types of films are your thing, then of course The Substance doesn't need my recommendation. For those of you who aren't too familiar with horror or just don't like the genre, you might be best to skip this one. I give The Substance 3 out of 5 on the basket case scale. If you like this video, please subscribe to the channel for more, and let me know your thoughts on the film in the comments section below.